Hello, and welcome to the Embrace Balance, Discover Joy podcast. I'm Amanda Butland, your host and intuitive life coach. All right, welcome to another episode of the Embrace Balance, Discover Joy podcast. Today, my special guest is Disha Philip. Disha, so great for you to be with me today.
I am absolutely thrilled to reconnect.
Awesome. I always like to start out with a little icebreaker question. Would you mind sharing with us what activity or hobby brings you the most joy and why?
Well, that is a perfect question because I will say right now it is singing. So you can see I'm a little bit glammed out with my makeup today and the blue eyeshadow because I literally just came back from a 60s cocktail party, like fundraiser for my Saratoga Voices choir. And so I was like, I literally had like disco ball earrings and like a whole outfit on. And I was just too tired to take off all my makeup for this. I was like, well, I'll just do this. So singing, absolutely singing in our choir and just brings me absolutely so much joy. And I could be yawning on my way to rehearsal, and then at the end, I am like completely jazzed and completely wired up. And rehearsal's like at night on a Wednesday night after a long day of work, so it's amazing. Yeah, that's what I
I
got.
love I love that. And you look gorgeous. I can't, you can't really tell that it's blue eyeshadow, but
Oh, I'm like, I look a little crazy, but that's
you look perfect.
okay.
All right. Well, we're here to talk about life coaching. And I would love to, I know you're a life coach. I would love to learn a little bit about your journey, how you became, what journey brought you to becoming a life coach. Would you mind sharing that with us?
Oh my gosh, this is kind of long. So let's see if I can make it really short. So okay, I'm originally trained. I work as a non-invasive cardiologist. So I'm a physician. Okay. My dad is a 92-year-old cardiologist. My sister is a cardiologist. Her husband is a cardiologist. My brother is an internist. His wife is a breast radiologist. Lots of doctors in my family. So in 2008, when I was in training, my husband and I had our first daughter who I carried to term, but I ended up having to take her off the ventilator when she was 4 days old because the doctor used a vacuum on her head and it caused a huge bleed. And needless to say, that experience totally catapulted me into my spiritual journey. I think this is where like Brene Brown says, breakdown, but it's a spiritual breakthrough. I will say spiritual journey. I didn't really have a breakdown or anything, but that experience of grief, that experience of, I felt really betrayed by my doctor too, because at the time she wrote all over the medical record that she had counseled me to have a C-section and I had declined. And I was like, none of that happened. And so I was like, here I am, a doctor. They always tell us like, hey, if it's not in the chart, it didn't happen. And then here was a doctor saying that this had happened. And I knew, my husband knew, my sister, my best friend were all doctors who knew. My husband's not a doctor, but look, we all were there and none of that happened. So she directly lied in the chart. And so that experience after like having to, take my daughter off the ventilator, like it was just like one blow after another. It was just awful. And, so these like big life tragedies were like happening over and over again. And then we were fortunate, like somehow I finished training. We moved to a small town, Duluth, Minnesota, where I got my first attending job. And then we were blessed to have two more children. And actually, it was then where a point in 2015, I was working 70 hours a week. I was trying to sleep train my 2.5-year-old. I was trying to nurse my little baby every 2.5 to 3 hours. We had 20 nannies in the span of 5 years, and my husband was trying to build his own business. And so the next thing I knew, so my husband and I, like I had kind of like fought to be with him because my parents were really against it because his parents were from a different part of India than mine. Long story, I'm not going to go there. But bottom line was that he was like the love of my life. And then here we were running around like crazy and we were like two ships passing in the night, really. And I got to a point one day where I was sitting in my office at work and my clinic manager knocked on the door and was just like, hey, doc. I'm like, what? he's like, can I have a word with you? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, what's going on with you? You look like your mind is going a million miles a minute. And I like looked up at him and I was like, what? I was like, and I was like found out, being called out. Like I thought I was hiding it so well, keeping it together, showing up at work on time, whatever. But inside I was feeling exhausted, lonely, I felt like I was barely keeping it together. Totally sleep deprived as well, right? And that's when I decided, like, oh my God, I'm the primary breadwinner in my family. Now, like, my manager at work is like noticing this. This is like, this is not okay. And so I was like, something has to change. And I realized in that moment that the common denominator in all my stress was me. And like my kid wasn't going to suddenly sleep train herself. My other baby wasn't going to nurse herself. I wasn't going to quit my job. Like I had, all the stuff that I was juggling. And so something really needed to change. And so that's when I decided that I would try to learn meditation. And so I'd heard about meditation throughout my whole life. Oprah talked about it and stuff like that. And I had gone to medical conferences that had told me about meditation being like one of those alternative modalities that actually has statistically significant benefit in like dropping your blood pressure, helping you live longer, decreasing heart attacks, blah, blah, blah. And I was having patients come in and ask me all the time anyways about isn't there something else you can give me other than a pill, And so then like all this stuff happened and I was like, all right, you know what? I don't want to recommend something woo or weird without me trying it. And clearly I needed something and I was not going to go on medication. I mean, like that's not what I needed, And so I learned to meditate with a proper teacher, and literally within a couple months, like everything started to change. So whereas before I was coming home every day, ordering, correcting, directing my kids all the time, and telling them, why are you on the iPad? Why are you this? Like I'd walk in like with the most negative energy ever. And then after I started meditating, I would meditate in the morning before I went to work. And then I would meditate right before I walked through the door at home. Like I started becoming more productive at work, getting my charts done faster. And then I was having like peaceful, loving evenings with my daughters. And then like all these things started opening up to me, like into the universe, right? Like I'm starting to manifest stuff. So anyways, I know I'm going very long. So basically I ended up like when I started meditating, and what it does is it really opens you up to the realm of infinite possibilities. And so like magic starts happening, right? Like things that you would have never considered, like suddenly you're open to them. And so while so many things were getting better in my life, like my relationship was I still felt very lonely in the relationship. And I got to a point where it was like, I love this man, but I can't keep having this be the marriage. And I had no idea how to change it. And that's when the universe brought me Stacey Martino and relationship development. And that experience, joining that, totally changed my life. Stacey Martino was an amazing coach. And I remember asking her one day, Stacey, like when you teach stuff, like immediately I want to go like teach my patients about it. I want to tell everybody in the world about it. Like, what is that about? And she said to me on a call together once, and she said, Disha, she's like, you're a messenger. And I'm like, what? She's like, you're a messenger. And I was like, oh my goodness, that's crazy. Okay. So I like marinated that for a few years. And I was just learning so much stuff about personal development and growth and all that. And then when I came into the Holistic Business School with Shelly Ryuda, I had started teaching meditation already, and I really wanted to grow my meditation business. And she was offering holistic life coach certification, levels 1, 2, and 3. And I was like, oh, what is all this? And so when I learned about holistic life coaching, where the basis is understanding that we are not human beings just like seeking a spiritual experience, but we really are spiritual beings having a human experience. And all of us have inside of us and our authentic self, which is our soul, our pure soul, which is inherently loving and joyful and peaceful and all those things. But we also all have our conditioned self, which is a part of us that's taken on the scripts of our parents and past generations and the media and our teachers. And it's the script that's running in our head all the time. But it's also that part of us that was designed to keep us safe. But now, like in my mid to late 40s, or like, midlife or whatever, the conditioned self just sits there and keeps me stuck rather than helping me move forward. And then all of us also inside of us have a loving, wise adult who has made loving, wise decisions in the past, right? And if we have children, like it's the loving, wise adult part of you is the one who, when your kid is having a tantrum, it's the one that recognizes, hey, you know what does this kid really need? Does he or she just need a hug? Does she need a nap? Does she need to eat something, right? And it's not the one that's just like, whatever. That's your conditioned self. The one who's ordering, correcting, directing, and yelling at everybody, that's your conditioned self. You just can't have it, Whereas your authentic self is the real you who's enjoying, for me, like who's enjoying singing, who's enjoying talking to you, doing these podcasts and stuff. And then the loving, wise adult is the one who helps guide you to go from your conditioned self back to your authentic self. And so there's a lot of inner child work and things like that we do, and which goes very well into my Path of Silence retreat that I co-host too, where we help you through silence, but also like we give you activities to do to really connect with love or your loving, wise adult, and really hear that voice, because 98 or 99% of society lives in their conditioned self. That's why, and the fact of the matter is, Amanda, is that, many spiritual traditions of the world right now, and it's not surprising, all you have to do is like turn on the TV or watch social media. Like, we're at a time on the planet right now where there's major transformation happening. You look out there, it's a shit show. And it's up to you whether you're going to go down with it or whether you are going to be that light worker, which we know both of us are, where we are shining our light, where everybody's coming back, recognizing, hey, that's not me. That angry, pissed off, resentful person, that's not who I ever was or who I wanted to be. I am a being of love. I am inherently peaceful. I am inherently joyful. And so it takes practice, because we've all been living so much in our conditioned self. And when you are having that call and that pull where you realize, hey, on the outside, it looks like I have everything, but I still feel so empty inside, because maybe you're stuck comparing yourself to everybody else outside of you, right? And your locus of control is external rather than internal, when really all the answers are inside of you. So that's a long-winded story. So I've just loved learning all of this, and it's transformed my life. And as a healer, right, I went into medicine and I became a doctor because I wanted to help heal people. And I know as a cardiologist that yes, pills and procedures and surgeries are super duper important, but I will tell you 80% of what comes into my office every day has to do with people being stuck in their conditioned self, not being able to handle stress. And that's why their blood pressure's up. That's why they're having chest pain. That's why their hearts are racing. And I can no longer sit with my mouth closed and act like it's not happening and just pretend that this pill that I'm going to give you is going to fix it all, because it doesn't. We have to be able to open up and look at what's going on so we can truly heal ourselves. If you want to, you don't have to. But for those of the people who really want to heal body, mind, soul, it can be done. And you just have to be open and willing to do it. And I love being that guide to help people doing that.
Oh, I love that so much. And thank you so much for sharing your journey. And it wasn't long at all. It was all beautiful. And I love what you said around sort of people being stuck in their conditioned self. And that's the thing that's causing these issues that you see in your medical practice. And now having learned the skills to be able to address those sort of root cause issues, right? And being able right, and to be able to serve your patients from not just, the after, effects of them living in their conditioned selves, but to be able to get to that root and heal sort of the source problem so that, it actually is healing and not just suppressing symptoms, right? So I love that. Thank you
It's
so much for sharing. Yeah. So I would love to learn a little bit more because I know you mentioned, a lot of, who you're serving, sort of the programs that you have, but I would love to learn a little bit more about maybe who is your ideal client? Who is it that you serve? The person that is, who is the person that seeks you out for your services?
love it, love it. So it took me a while to figure this out. And so right now, where it is at is I've actually started a program, or I'm starting working on a program called the Awakened Physician. So it's really female physicians like myself who are realizing that they work their butts off. They're exhausted, and you think that they have everything, and yet inside they're feeling, maybe they're going through a big life transition. Maybe they're going through grief, divorce, job change, or maybe they're just waking up to the fact that maybe medicine isn't really for them. Or they really love medicine, but not like this, because we also know that the whole industry has completely changed, and a lot of doctors are not feeling supported right now. And physician suicide is at like an all-time high, especially since COVID. Yeah. Yeah. And so I really, really want to serve my physician sisters, because as we heal, right, ourselves, we can heal others. And so if I can teach my physician sisters how to do this for themselves, they can easily bring elements of that into for their patients, for their children, for their families, like for everybody. And so that is a big group of people, but also any high achieving women and some men, if they're open to this kind of work, where they've recognized maybe they're exercising all the time, maybe they are eating clean, and yet they still don't feel healthy, right? And they know there's more work to be done, and they really aren't looking for another pill, but they're looking to dive into some of this other stuff that needs healing, and they're open to awakening their soul and their spiritual connections. So
I
those would
love
be
that.
people.
Yeah, no, I love what you mentioned around sort of other, female physicians and helping them sort of learn the skills that you've learned in order to better serve, right, your patients, to, share that knowledge with others. That's just so beautiful because right, it's spreading that light and allowing others to be able to do the same work that you're doing by, just spreading it to others. So I love that you're doing that and offering it to other female doctors to be able to provide that to their patients as well. So thank you for the work
Yeah.
that you do. It's awesome.
Thank you. I mean, I got to say, like, in a 15 or 20-minute office visit, right? So, like, that's the problem with the medical system,
Mm,
right? And so that's why I had to create my own business outside of my doctor job, right? I mean, when I'm in the office with a patient, I can recognize very quickly, is this an organic issue, like with the heart, with the physical heart, or is it not? And like, what are the things? Because I do a lot of health coaching, functional medicine too. I do a lot of that, root cause, like you mentioned, cleaning up the diet and like all those kinds of things too. But so many, most people have other childhood traumas or whatever it is that need to be healed so they can live to their highest potential in their healthiest, right, most elevated version of themselves. And it's not for everybody. Not everybody wants to do this work. Not everybody is cut out for this work. Not everybody, cares. They just want to keep going, just help me keep going. So that's cool too. But if, for people who really want to dive deeper into it, that's why I went part-time in my day job, and I'm also doing this on the side.
that's awesome. I love that. You're helping so many with their health journeys. So I love that. I do want to start to wrap up. But before we do, I would love to find out, is there any special message you'd like to leave with our listeners today? Any words of wisdom or special extra message that you would like to share with everybody today?
Yeah. I want everybody on this planet to know that you are not your body. Stacey Martino said to me, "You are the light that shines through your eyes." I remember her saying that. You are a soul, and the soul doesn't die. The soul's been going forever. And as a soul, You are a being of light. You are pure love. And you as a soul are the one who drives the body. The body is just a vehicle for your soul. And I always say, everybody's car stops working eventually, and that's okay. We don't need to fear death. And I know for sure that while everybody's heart stops when their soul leaves their body, our souls did not come into the body to sit and wonder how it's going to leave it. And so right now, more than ever on this planet, it's so important that we are recognizing our true authentic selves, that we recognize that we are actually beings of love. Everybody is. And it's time for us who are feeling that calling, who are feeling called to step into their own light, to start really shining it so we can give permission to others to shine it too. And that's how you transform yourself. And then that's how we transform the world. And we can do it. You just have to raise your hand and say, yes, I'm ready.
I love that message. Thank you so much for reminding everybody, right? That it's, I think a lot of, like you mentioned, all the people that are stuck in sort of their conditioned selves, not maybe having their eyes open to sort of their soul being, right? That their body is a vehicle for them to live on this planet at this time, but they're more than just that. And I think a lot of people don't have, their eyes open to that. They're very stuck in the physical and all that they see, feel, touch, the physical senses, but not being open to and receiving sort of what's beyond that and what exists beyond that. So
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you for sharing that message today.
You're welcome.
And thank you again for being with me today. It's been a pleasure. You are such a bright light, and I love that you just sharing your journey with us. It's been an amazing story to hear, and thank you again for being with me.
Thank you so much for having me, Amanda.
I invite you to subscribe to the Embrace, Balance, Discover Joy podcast and join our community. If you feel inspired by what you hear, please leave a review and share this podcast with others who might benefit. And remember, it's never too late to embrace balance and discover joy in your life. Stay tuned for our upcoming episodes filled with inspiring stories and valuable insights. Until next time, take care and be kind to yourself.